Sports Rabbi covers Israeli sports from basketball to soccer and many more. For hard-hitting opinions and thoughts, the Sports Rabbi Josh Halickman gives it all.
All right, we're back here with the Sports Rabbi Josh Halickman. Welcome aboard to Sports Rabbi Rants. Yes, it is the Sports Rabbi Josh Halickman. Sports Rabbi Rants, you have reached us once again, and we are back and better than ever. Of course, bringing you some of the highlights, and we have some highlights, of course. Busy weekend of basketball games. We know it's President's Week, President's Day back in the United States. But as we move from State Cup and Israel basketball, we now head into the national team window, and that's going to be the big topic of discussion over the next week and a half or so as Israel gets ready to play a pair of games in the upcoming Eurobasket European Championship qualification. They've already qualified, so these two games coming up, which are going to be taking place in Latvia, are really, as they say here in Israel, for protocol only. They're not going to be, they've already made the tournament. They do not know where they're going to play yet because there's a number of options where the Israel national team is going to play, and we're going to talk all about that today. And of course, if you like the Sports Rabbi, and I know that you do, make sure you subscribe to us, leave us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. Check us out at the Sports Rabbi, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, sportsrabbi.com for the latest and greatest news, both in English and in Hebrew. We deliver to you in both languages, and boy, do we do. We've had a busy week, and like I said, national basketball team, that's what we're going to be talking about. The blue and white, they are getting ready to face a pair of foes in the final window of the European Championship qualifying. Coming up right now this weekend, so that's going to be exciting news. Those games are going to be taking place in Latvia. Friday night, the Israel national team will play at 9 p.m., and they play Portugal. That is a home game for Israel due to the security situation here. They are not playing in the Holy Land. And then on Monday night, they play as well, and they host Slovenia. But again, those games are for protocol only. They have qualified. They've punched their ticket. We're going to find out, within the next probably, I think, month or so exactly where they're going to have their group stage games when the European Championship opens up in August. Different options include Cyprus, Riga, city in Poland as well. So we're going to have to see where they land up. Finland, I believe, is also an option. Not 100% sure where they're going to be. I guess they're going to probably play closer to Israel, which Cyprus would be an option. But who knows? Anything can really happen when they, I guess, dish out the draw, and we see who they get in their group and where that group is. The final stages of the tournament will take place in Riga. Would be great if they ended up playing their group stage games in Riga, but I don't think that's going to happen due to some technical issues of which teams can and can't play in certain countries. So we're going to see how that all plays out. It's all kind of politics and FIBA, so that's the way it is with all these sports things. I know they say that sports and politics never mix, but they always, of course, mix. The biggest political story with the Israel national team has to be the players that were called up for this window of games. Now, because the two games are really, in essence, meaningless, they don't mean anything. I mean, other than a chance for head coach Ariel Beit Halachmi to see some of these players in action. They've already punched their ticket, which is great news. So they don't have any pressure coming into these two games. They don't have to win. They can lose. Doesn't really matter what the results are. But you still want to see some of the best players representing the country. However, that's not the case, and that's not going to happen. Of course, players like Denny Avdia, it's not going to play in this window because the NBA players are not released from their NBA teams to play in European or in any type of continental championships. So that is the reason why Denny Avdia would not play. He can play in the European Championships itself. When that gets underway in August, probably he will. A couple players that probably won't play are Ben Saraf and Danny Wolf. Danny Wolf, of course, playing for Michigan in college. Will probably be a first-round lottery draft pick. Ben Saraf also, good chance that he will be a lottery draft pick. He's playing in Ulm right now. But since they are both probably going to be in the first round, they're going to have guaranteed contracts in their NBA teams, are not going to want them to go play in a European championship in a tournament that they have really no control over. Sure, they'll play in the Summer League, the NBA Summer League. That will probably be where they will be at. But this also happened when Denny Avdia was drafted. He didn't play in the next. Or actually played in the European Championships a couple of years later, but it wouldn't have worked out either way. Omri Caspi, I don't believe, played. Once you get drafted and you're picked in the first round with a guaranteed contract, usually you're not released that same summer to go play with your national team, and that's understandable and that's fine. And that's really where Ben Surhoff and Danny Wolf's focus should be on, with 100 billion% on that. What we can say is that there's many players that kind of have nagging injuries, want some rest, want to get better. They have responsibilities to their club teams, and those players did not come to the national team. And we can start off with Tamir Blatt from Maccabi Tel Aviv with a back issue. Just minutes ago, Yovel Zusman, it was said that he has some kind of knee issue, so he's not going to be playing for the national team, despite him actually being at the national team practice this evening. So those two players are out. Tomer Ginat, the captain of the national team, has a hamstring problem that he's nursing. The list goes on and on. Roman Sorkin asked a while back to take off the time to rest up for the balance of the season, and he was given permission to miss. On and on and on and on. The list of players, went from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 to 10. The top players just not, being available or not wanting to come to this window of games. So what we're ending up with is a team with a couple of veterans and a lot of players that have very little European experience, some of which will have main roles with the national team down the road. Bar Timur will be the acting captain. Of course, Bar Timur is the captain of Hapoel Tel Aviv. Idan Salmonson, veteran center. He will be there. Rafi Menko from Maccabi Tel Aviv, he'll play. Itai Segev, center for Ness Ziona, he's in. Roey Huber, point guard, Maccabi Ramat Gan, he's playing. Ben Saraf, of course, guard from Ulm, he is playing. Guy Palatin, the defensive wizard, Spider-Man from Hapoel Tel Aviv, he is there. Yotam Hanochi, Hapoel Cholon, he is in the squad. Noam Yaakov from Hapoel Tel Aviv, guard, he is back. He just came off an injury. Eitan Berg is also making his first showing in the national team. He's from Bnei Herzliya, guard. Yair Kravitz, guard. Ness Ziona, Gur Lavi, forward from Hapoel Gilboa Galil. So you have a lot of players here that are, having their first time or have played very little with the national team or played in tournaments that, either they played in games that didn't mean much or they were in tournaments that they were not going to advance. So, again, you have some veterans in Bar Timur, Idan Zalmanson, Rafi Menko, Itai Segev. After that, it's fairly a potpourri of young players, 12 players. They're going to be heading out to Riga for the national team games. But the key thing here is so many players decided that they were not going to come. Now, I understand there's injuries, and we understand also that players are tired. It's been tough. Players have played, especially the past week, in the national team, players that are playing in Europe as well. For example, if you're Maccabi Tel Aviv, Hapoel Tel Aviv, Hapoel Jerusalem, you're tired. You could be knocked up injured. Kadeen Carrington got a knock to the head in the final State Cup last week. So that's why he is not playing for the national team. He is a naturalized Israeli. And, I know Tamir Blatt got a lot of criticism for not, for saying that he has a back issue. And he went for an MRI. And this has been true numerous times that Tamir Blatt has pulled out of the national team over the past couple of years. He put up a post explaining that he has a chronic injury and he wants to, take care of that. That's understandable. I get it. At the end of the day, you want to see the best players wearing the blue and white. You want to see commitment by the players. And this is not just a problem that we have in Israel. This is a problem that you have in many countries when, the games are, not do or die or on the line, where players will look for excuses not to come and play. And again, it's understandable. On the other hand, you want to have your best players at all times playing. In the soccer, the Israeli national team soccer team, you have the same problem as well. when the games are not meaningful. If they're knocked out, you're not going to see a lot of the top players. Some of them want to take the time off, and again, those are all things. There's a huge argument around it. Should you be representing your country? Could you take off the time? What's more important? Who's paying your salary? The national team's not paying your salary. Your club team's paying your salary. Is that more important? Is this your service to the country? For the most part, many of these players are not soldiers in combat units, for example, or they didn't serve very much time, or they served a more of a minor service in schools, working with children, or whatever you want to call it. Those are all the arguments that are out there. There's a lot of criticism out there. Even some players, came out and went after some of the other players recently as to, not so much commitments, but just, be honest. If you don't want to be on the team, don't start making up excuses. I think that's pretty tough when you have players calling out other players with that. I don't think that's, exactly the right thing to do if you are, national team teammates. You don't really want to have that type of relationship. But these are things that hit people very differently, especially after October 7th. There is a certain luster to play with the national team. You want to be standing there when they sing Hatikva, especially after October 7th. You want to be representing the country, especially after October 7th. And although a lot of players, I don't want to use the word bailed out, but some of them bailed out, or some of them had injuries that bailed them out, you're going to have a pretty young team. You're going to have 4 veterans and 8 kind of players that have had very little national team experience at the top level. In the youth teams, yes, they've been around, but the senior level to the youth level is totally different. And it's going to be an excellent experience for some of these players, that is for sure. It's going to give also Rabbi Halickman a bigger pool of players to work from if he does need to fill 1 or 2 spots, and that probably will happen. You'll see when it comes down to the European Championships, any player that can play will be playing in those games. Chronic injury or no chronic injury, you can guarantee they're going to suit up to represent Israel when it comes down to the big money time games, because they want to be there on the big stage against the big teams, against the big players, and that's understandable. How many of the players of Gur Lavi, Yair Kravitz, Eitan Burg, Noam Yaakov, Yotam Anochi, Guy Palatin, Ben Seraf, Roy Huber are going to make the team. Even, I'll say this, even Itai Stegev, Rafi Menko, Idan Zalmanson, they will probably make the team. Bar Timur, there were days when there were important games for the national team that he didn't make it a number of years ago. So it's going to be interesting to see. We're going to have to see how things play out. We'll talk about this, going through the week. We'll have some other stories as well. There's lots of stuff going on here. Of course, if you like this Sports Rabbi Rants, make sure you press that subscribe button. Make sure you like this video. It's great. It's a lot of fun. I'm happy to be here. But for right now, I want to wish everybody here a great day from the holy city of Jerusalem.